afternoon. It's 4 p.m. in Central Europe, and it's time for our Space Café 33 minutes with Michael Gschweitl from the ESA BIC Switzerland about the good, or about ESA BIC Switzerland, the good, the bad, and space. As always, we really appreciate your participation and your ongoing feedback. We will learn and we will improve based on your feedback. I'm Thorsten Greening, publisher of SpaceWatch.Global, and SpaceWatch.Global is a Europe-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. And I would like to thank all our private or corporate supporters that showed their commitment to keep our independent journalism alive. We really appreciate that. I know many of you are already familiar with our website, our bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and the Space Café podcast. The latest one, just a few hours ago, released, features Markus Moslechner, our host of the podcast, in a conversation with Carissa Christensen of Bryce-Tech. Definitely a voice to listen. And I'm super excited that we will have her on our panel with the Financial Times live. But you will hear about all of that later. We also have new exciting episodes of the Space Café Radio, the latest episodes with Matthias Gronowski from Airbus, the chief engineer of the Orion ESM. I talked with him last week in Bremen, and also with Dr. Victoria West of Project PlugShares and Victoria Sampson of Secure World Foundation about the last session of the UN Open-Ending Working Group in Geneva. So worth your time. And of course, our fan shop is open for you because it's always open. It's on our website and just a click away from you to become a space watcher, a real one. And if you've missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive available on our webpage in the event section. And also you can find us on YouTube. So my guest today is one of these people that work in the background to make things happen. He is an avid long distance and trail runner and a true mountain expert. But he is also the technical lead of the ESA BIC in Switzerland. So I'm very happy that he, shy as he is, followed my invitation. And welcome to our Space Café, Michael Gschweitl. For those of you that doesn't know Michael so far, he is an experienced engineer with a thorough background and expertise in space. He is passionate about supporting entrepreneurs and startups to develop their business ideas into innovative space applications. With a degree in material science, Michael has spent more than 10 years in the aerospace and space industry, working in various roles for renowned companies like Bombardier, Contraves, and RUAG Space, what is now Beyond Gravity. Michael is deeply engaged in novel and disruptive technology with the aim to further push the boundaries regardless if on Earth or in space. Once more, welcome, Michael, to the show. So let's jump in. What inspired you to leave a well-paid industry job and to join ESA BIC?
So first, thank you very much for the kind intro, Thorsten, and I also would like to welcome everybody online to today's Space Café. What has made me change my profession and take another direction? So I think there were two main aspects of that. So one was that even in industry, I was always quite into new technologies and try to bring new technologies into existing products, into existing developments. And that was always one heart which was always in my heart. And if you then see an offer to become part of ETH Zurich landscape with access to a couple of hundreds professors, which are really at the edge of science and technology development, along with still staying in the space domain, was for sure a very, very interesting opportunity. And the second thing, some people might think that this cannot happen, but I have to admit, after 10 years working on various projects from ESA to NASA to Israeli projects, so all across the world, the tasks came kind of repetitive to me. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a space geek, and I'm still very proud of all the things I did. And each time when I see the moon together with my two daughters, I tell them that I already put garbage there, and they can tell their comrades that Papa has put waste there. But I figured out that it's time to change. And then this ESA BIC Switzerland scheme to really connect deep tech entrepreneurs and bring them in contact with space was a perfect chance.
Sounds a bit like How to Survive the Midlife Crisis. Yeah, so just change job. Others run marathons once, you do it multiple times or even a longer distance. So that sounds exciting. So, and did it fulfill what it promised to you, that you have not repetitive tasks, you have all the beauty and the excitement every day going to the office?
Absolutely. So that is really, it broadens my horizon. So that is exactly what I was looking to really see how this, how to connect the dots. Of course, to have a realistic view on that, I was more than 10 years, almost 15 years in project-based duties, and that was quite a change for me. So you can imagine working in project world, you start with on paper, and after a certain period, you have something in hand, you have something to show. And that was a big personal change in that job, and still sometimes miss it, but in general I have to say it's very rewarding, because again, you're in contact with a lot of different technologies, you're at the forefront of new developments, and in that case you don't have directly negotiate with any corporate management, and you have to demonstrate that it brings return of investment within 2-3 years time horizon. So just positive things, at least for me.
Let's jump into the topic. So this January, so last month actually, the ESA BIC Switzerland welcomed the 13th cohort of new companies already. Before talking about the newbies, let's review the last 12, the dirty dozen, so the last 12 cohorts. So what are the lesson learned? And then I would like to start with the positives. I mean, there are, hopefully most things are positive, but there will be also then the lesson learned on the negative side. So where are the multi-billion-dollar companies, multi-billion franc companies from Switzerland?
So far, I have to be so honest, we don't have the unicorn, but we have achieved quite some traction. So I think for me, the important thing is that after a certain period, you have something that can be measured. And of course, in the startup world, you're talking about created jobs, you're talking about revenues, you're talking about the number of investments, and those figures are pointing in the right direction. So we have more than 10 company startups with more than or exceeding 1 million of revenue, and so on. Switching a little bit back to space, what especially for me is very important, that out of those 12 cohorts, we have a certain number of cases which actually have launched their space products, which have launched their space verticals. And for me personally, it's a very I'm very happy if I meet those people, for example, on events like Space Tech Expo when they're exhibiting, and then you know you did something right, because those startups startups, they have started with an idea, they have explored the space domain, and now they are in the heart of the space industry with products, with services. And that is for sure one great achievement the whole team is very proud of. A second thing which I would like to mention is the very diverse character of ESA BIC Switzerland, and looking a little bit in the very last cohorts, it gets even diverser, and that brings me to an observation I made, especially when I'm at ESA. So at ESA you often see these people running around with shirts written on it, space is everywhere. And for me, when I entered space industry, that was not the case. It was a very inclusive environment, and that has now opened quite a lot. And I see a lot of diverse cases from various industry segments, which now trying to connect and get into the topic of space. And that is also something I personally see on the very positive side of the incubator. It really reflects the recent developments that space is entering in a lot of very important strategic areas. So we have life science startups, we have startups coming from the going in the telecommunication domain, and so on. So it opened up to much more than the usual suspects, I would say. And that's, in my opinion, exactly what these incubation centers are for.
When you talk about the incubation center, and just to review it for our audience, the incubation center that we know in Germany, in France, in wherever are one place, one real estate facility, where all the companies are together to learn from each other, to network, to do all these things that you do as an physical incubator. That's different in Switzerland, is that correct?
Exactly. We are a purely vertical incubator, so we have the policy that the startups can stay where they feel comfortable in terms of network, in terms of taxes, accommodation. Doesn't matter. But what we really
did you say Texas?
Texas. So
okay.
Sorry, but Texas.
Yeah, that's a very Swiss thing, I think.
Yeah, exactly. No. If they move to Texas, they are not eligible anymore for the ESA BIC scheme. So no. But what we really pay attention is that those crowd is meeting on a regularly basis. So we have so-called community events, which are mandatory for the incubated companies. Also, they are often joined by alumni, and that is exactly for the networking. And I think sometimes I have the impression that within that scheme, it often works better than when startups are really physically next to each other, because here I often made the experience they even not talking to each other. Here, in our case, we made them talking to each other, either in a breakout room or with a glass of wine in hand. And that is usually quite fruitful. And therefore, it's different than other countries, but for sure, in our case, it's the right direction.
If any of you in the audience is from one of the alumni companies or from the current cohort or has a desire to be in the next cohort, so just signal us or on the chat. The chat is open for you. So because Michael will not mention any of the companies, so that's something we agreed. But if you do it in the chat, I can't do anything against that. Michael, what have been the biggest challenges for these companies that went through the program in general? What can you share with us? Because it's a lesson learned here.
Exactly. So, of course, challenges are different from startup to startup. As a general remark, I didn't figure out that a lot of them struggle in the technology. And that usually works quite smooth. They're often linked to really team building, of course, fundraising. And since we are here in a Space Café, what I often witness is that specifically for space and for the space domain, they're struggling with the landscape. So that is, for example, a big part of my daily job in order to, let's say, demystify a little bit the various funding schemes, how does it work, how to get access to what kind of contract. So that is not obvious for a lot of them. And some of them that—
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean? That I mean, are you advising them on financing? Are you advising them also then on how to get a contract in, or so what is it?
No, in the end, they have to decide, but we just support them in themselves if they want to get in that direction. But a concrete example I often doing is looking when about ESA contracts. You know, about ESA, there's a lot about return, and not every element is signed, for example, by each country. And not that they spend a lot of time reading through all these application documents in order to find out that they're not eligible. I encourage them, contact me. I have I know the system, I know on the keywords, and within 5 minutes you get an answer if there are any no-go criteria for a potential application, and that is quite well received in that regards. And again, all these different elements, like there is now ESA national, and that is I would say even a little bit like a zoo or very dense forest for some of them. And a lot of our startups are not pure space companies. For them, space, it's a business vertical, and they're really struggling. Another thing which creates issues, especially, it's also quite obvious for startups, are the long procurement cycles. So people in space industry know that procurement cycles are still long. So that means revenues are not that immediate, and that creates issues in cash flow, but also for investors. As you can imagine, a lot of investors, they are not happy if you project revenues in 10 to 15 years time horizon. So, and that are for sure two challenges which I have spotted out, which are quite valid for majority of these almost or 60 plus startups which are either currently in the program or went through the program.
But how can you overcome this challenge? I mean, you talked about the long procurement cycles. I mean, ESA or ESA BIC will not intermediate finance or mezzanine finance that, obviously. And the other question, when you talked about investors, how educated is the Swiss market when it comes to investments? I mean, we saw in the last weeks some great European investments in the 40 or scale-up investments, which haven't been seen in the size before. So for exploration company and ExoTrail, and for 40 to 50 million, or even 58 million was ExoTrail. That's a significant amount. We haven't seen it in Europe. So how is it in Switzerland?
So in Switzerland, we don't see that big numbers right now. So I hope it goes in that direction. What is in my opinion, the case is that Switzerland is still a good place for hardware investments. So compared to other countries, also I spent quite some time in the US. There, it's much harder to get investments around hardware topics. So that's and in Switzerland, in my opinion, there are a few houses which have specialized in that. They also have a little bit of a kind of longer breadth in terms of getting anything out from that, and that helps for sure. If we will see houses being able to invest 50, 60, 80, 100 millions for really scaling up, I would honestly need the crystal ball right now. Okay. I hope I've heard indication that people are thinking about that, but concrete on the table, I am personally not aware about anything.
You spoke about the diversity before, and you made you showed the bouquet of the technologies, so from telco to other areas. Is there also a diversity in the founders? Are they all young? Are they all male engineers, or is it now really a diversity as we want to see that? Or what is the percentage of male female founders are that entering the programs?
That is a very interesting and good question, and my first answer is there's a lot of changes to that. So about the first cohort, it was predominantly male dominated, and with a classical background coming from academia. That has changed in along the various cohorts. I don't know exactly what is the reason. I could imagine that that space, the topic of space, becomes more present, and that attracts more people. For example, in the last rounds, the number of female entrepreneurs was quite high. So just let me think about it. In the last round, there are 3 of the 6 companies female founders. There's a growing interest from people which found the company out from industry, so not just pure academia. So it's also getting more diverse. Of course, here you would really have a little bit deeper. What are the reasons behind? But I think on a macro scale, on a global level, for sure, topic of space is attracting more entrepreneurial spirit in that sense, and more diverse crowd.
Right. For everyone who is in the audience, that's your chance to ask all the questions you always want to, or already want to know about entering the program. I mean, we will touch on that, but if you have a specific one, send them over into the Q&A. And I see in the chat there's someone, Nassar, from a Swiss company. They will entering the program in fall. So, and we will talk about this application process in a bit. But before we coming to that, let's talk about the most common mistakes the last cohorts have done, if there are any. I mean, you could say, hey, they all were great and fine, and we had a super easy life here, but I think that's not the reality. What are these mistakes that you can mention that others don't do them?
Good. So what I see quite regularly, and that is kind of a red line through a lot of incubation proposals we receive, is that people are thinking you can get from having an idea until demonstrating flight heritage within 3 months. And that is something I immediately have to tell them that's not realistic. Again, this goes a little bit to this long development / procurement cycles, and that is often the situation, and you have to manage expectations, and they are building or they're really building their proposal on the assumption that it is just a matter of couple of months and you will be on a satellite, you will be on space station or whatever. So that is for sure one of the obvious mistakes that are made. And the second one, this is not specific for space, but it is also evident for space, is that a lot of those startups, they're approaching their customers mainly with a technology point of view. So they are not asking themselves what are they needing. So they are going in the direction, I have that fancy technology and I think that is the best technology and you have to use it, then your product gets better. And I always tend to say, think first, what are the needs of your customer? Because this is what drives more interest. So if you present a fancy technology without being aware that there is a need, they might listen, but the chance that they will engage in a follow-up discussion is quite low. So it's rather this would be the other way around. Also for proposals, you should identify a concrete need. That need, in my opinion, can translate quite easily into a market opportunity, and that is exactly what you have. What you should focus on, and then it's a very easy way also for an ESA BIC proposal to create a story around it. You have identified the need, that's the market opportunity. You have a very nice technology that has a certain maturity level, a certain TRL level, and in order to address this market opportunity, there's a gap. And in order to bridge the gap, ESA BIC Switzerland, we are asking for your support to really get access to this market opportunity, to harvest this market opportunity. And this is something I see quite often, that this is not happening. It's more about, yeah, I have that technology. I think it can be used for a lot of things, and it is better than everything which is existing. But that often does not convert into tangible projects and revenues.
As our producer likes to say, when talking about technology, it's a space screw. So what to do with the best space crew in the world? So if nobody needs that. When you talked about the 3 months of have flight heritage, is that more an expectation management on the companies, on the young entrepreneur side, or on the investor side?
No, it's on the entrepreneur side. Investors, okay. I think they're pretty set in order to identify that, or they have the experts, especially those investors with the deep pockets. They have their experts, and that's not a secret that it takes longer, but it's often at the entrepreneur side to manage expectations.
Can you give us one anecdote from the last 12 cohorts, from the last 7 years, that you like to share with us? Something what really moved you, what touched you, where you say, gosh, give them another chance.
So we are entering now the yellow brass section of the Space Café.
No, never.
So, this ever reminds me to a conversation with a very good friend of mine when we were driving to Las Vegas, and he told me what happened in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. So these stories I have to keep behind curtain. But let me quickly think. So one nice anecdote. So I think there's a very good example about the different language. I remember once I was contacted by a company interested into the program, and I managed to get them connected to an ESA technical officer in order to better identify applications and get more flesh on the bone on their application, and also to benchmark the technology. And that was a little bit the mindset about it. And in the end, we ended at the technical officer, which really put those guy on the hot seat. And he was conducting a kind of really ESA style project review with them, and it was really, really bad and really mean. And those guys, I really tried to moderate a little bit, but he didn't stop. He was really in full throttle, and the entrepreneur, you could witness that he got smaller and smaller. And later on, he really called me and said, Michael, this guy made me almost jump off the bridge because he was really destroying his technology. But the funny thing on that is, the good thing was I knew that guy from one of my previous projects where he did a quality job. So I was a little bit already hoping it wasn't that bad, but okay, it happened. And then it was possible to really get those discussion or get this guy motivated to apply for the program. And the funny story is they applied, they made it into the program, and they are now even doing a project with that nasty guy. So that is for me, so the circle ended. But for me, it's really what I wanted to point out is this different type of language. So you have on one end this enthusiastic entrepreneur, which which wants to sell his technology. And on the other hand, you have this very, very experienced ESA technical officer being the really, really expert in that domain. And the language, they have had the same, maybe the same goal, but they used totally different language, and that was after a couple of months later, it was funny. At that point, it was a little bit of a not so nice situation.
Learning curve.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the new kids on the block. So tell us about this current process, about the new applicants. What do they need? What can they gain? So what is your pitch to sell seats on the ESA BIC? And I know they're not for sale, but how do you inspire them to join?
No, first comment on that is again the incubator itself. It's quite a diverse incubator, so there are no ideas which we basically not listening to. And so even though it sounds at the first a little bit of strange, it's worth to reach out to us, to contact us. That is the first comment on that. Aside from that, it's something you have to be aware. There are certain formal requirements you have to respect. So it's necessary that you have that you're when you start the program, you have to be an incorporated company. Your headquarters should be in Switzerland. Along, you must not be older than 5 years. That is the easy things to tick off. And the next thing is the space connection. So if you are, if you think you have a space connection, that is exactly what we are looking for. So basically, we see 3 main space connections: either technology from space used for something on Earth, technology from Earth used for something on space, or you're in a domain where you use data sets, infrastructure from space. So that is the 3 space connections you're eligible to. And what is important is that you relate those this space connection to a tangible business opportunity. I'm not talking about a closed business case, but it's a business, should be a business opportunity. And that also explains quite well that the B in Business Incubation Center. So often we have to differentiate between scientific space connection and business space connection. So here for ESA BIC Switzerland, you have to have these, or you have to respect the B, so the business related space connection. What you gain from the program, it's non-dilutive funding in the order of magnitude of 200,000 euros. So no equity, non-dilutive, along with access of technical support and business support out from our partner network. So that is the nice thing. If you're part of the program, you can directly connect with big corporations which are part of our partner network, or with ESA, and that is everything dealt with within the program, same like IP related support and so on. And that is in a nutshell the package you get. So you have the financial 200,000 euros along with some technical support.
Nice, nice. I'm trying to hear a bit your experience and your view or your market access. Where is innovation based on your scouting, based on the knowledge from the cohorts trending in Switzerland? I mean, as you said before, Switzerland is a small country, so we have to specialize in something. We can't do the big moon mission, or we can't do whatever, solar-based power infrastructures, anything like that. So what are the niches you see at the moment?
So, of course, there is a big hub around the two big technical schools in Switzerland. So ETH Zurich and EPFL in Lausanne. And there always you have some topics which are evoked there. And around that, there's a lot of developments going on, which then often might be some niche, more community, but it's the big schools where a lot comes out from. Along with that, you always have some like just looking at the map of companies that are either incubated or now alumni of the project. So we cover more or less whole Switzerland. So it's not that, and there are barely any wide spots on that. But
I mean, technology-wise, I mean, you mentioned EPFL. We see a lot of cyber cleaning stuff coming from the EPFL. I mean, now the sustainable rating, space sustainable rating is based there. The eSpace Center is based there. So there is, as you said, a cluster. Or is it more human space focused than in Zurich, or medicine focused, or is it?
No, there for sure space logistics, everything around or everything that builds on quantum physics. That is for sure, boom. Everything related to data and materials. So that if I have to name 4 main domains, that is where a big portion or the majority of the startups are playing.
Okay. Good. So then let's jump to a few of the questions here that we got in. And hey, I see there is Galactic Chloe in the audience. So nice to see you in the audience. Christoph asked on the procurement contracts rather than subsidized. What is your view on government as anchor customer to provide viability and visibility for funders, venture partners, and investors for larger private sector to gain confidence in Europe? Wow, big one.
My personally thought on that is that this will become more and more important, and now I use the Gschweitl crystal ball, and I project that we will see in near future more specific from governments, also from smaller countries, being anchor customers for technology. So a little bit,
including the Swiss government.
I could imagine, as I said, it's the Gschweitl crystal ball. So I hope that they're thinking about that, because there are opportunities. But again, I think that the US model might penetrate to a certain extent also Europe. And when you look at recent development, especially, price tag is still high, but also smaller countries have now the possibilities to launch their own projects, and I can imagine that in future we will see more countries or as anchor customers for space projects. But again, it's my personal take on that.
Great. Another one from Chris. Do you see enough entrepreneurs who may not necessarily have a deeply specialized tech education, but have a strong human and business experience that could make a difference when building a company? Interesting one.
That is a very good question. And our experience is often that the teams which are quite well balanced in that, and also the tasks are quite well balanced. So meaning you have the techie guy, and you have the so to say the leader, and the guy which is really able to interact. They are often the most successful ones. So of course there are always some exceptions, but again, if you have a very I often see it that very complementary teams are, especially in this early phase, the more successful ones, because I see often that teams which have the same background tend to solve the same problems and not trying to solve problems which they are not so familiar with. And that is not that often the case for diverse founding teams.
So I would like to take one last question because I'm getting waves from our producer already. It's about time. He doesn't even give us a grace period on Valentine's Day here. So Nasser asked, oh, where's the question in? And we consider applying for, no, there was no, that was not a question. Okay, no, I thought I see a question. However, then I would like to say, Michael, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure talking to you and to learn more about the program in Switzerland. And I think it's very different from others, and it has really some charm. And with that, Eleanor, back to you.
Thank you, Thorsten, and thank you, Michael.
Share your wisdom.
I will. Before we say goodbye, let me remind you of the upcoming events. So on the 22nd of February at 4 p.m. Central European Time, join us for a Space Café Israel by Medat Pariente, who will host Miss Alice Miller, the CTO of Helios, and the first woman to get accepted to the IDF flight course. On the 24th of February at 8 p.m. Central European Time, we are going to join the Space Bar, the 61st Space Bar by Astro Agency, where hosts Dallas Campbell and Dr. Susie Amber will welcome as a first guest Nicolas Boros, principal at Rotoiti. On the 28th of February at 4 p.m. Central European Time again, we're going to have our Space Café 33 Minutes with Pierre Lyonnais, Research and Managing Director at AESD Aerospace. On the 1st of March, do not miss the chance to attend our webinar event dedicated to the new space economy risks versus reward by the Financial Times Live, where you can join Financial Times International Business Editor Peggy Hollinger and our publisher at SpaceWatch.Global, Thorsten Kreining, live on LinkedIn for a virtual discussion on the long-term financial sustainability of the space sector. Finally, on the 16th of March at 4 p.m., join Space Café Austria by Sabine Pongruber and stay tuned for the guests. As usual, all events are going to be online on Eventbrite, so make sure you get your ticket now for free. And we would like to hear your feedback, so please check in with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to sign up for our daily and our bi-weekly newsletters. And if you'd like to treat yourselves to something special, become a Space Watcher today or help us in the supporter program. Thank you, Michael, for the insightful talk and for being our guest. And thanks again to the entire team behind the scenes for doing this great job week by week again. Thank you, to our audience for joining us. I hope to see you in the next week's upcoming events. In the meantime, visit our website and follow us on social media. Take care and don't forget, become a Space Watcher. Bye!